Hey, welcome to Guitar Knobs, the guitars, gear, noise, and nonsense podcast, hosted today by these knobs.
Tony Dudzik, Pick Guardian.
Hey, everybody, it's me, Todd Novak. Welcome to the Guitar Knobs podcast. We're thrilled to death that you're listening to our show. Still audio only, baby.
Yeah, old school.
Keeping it real up in the field.
Yeah. The OG.
I still, like, on a weekly basis, I'm like, when are you guys going to do video? I'm like, no, I do not have enough time in my life to do that.
That's what AI is for.
No, it's not.
AI
It's
animated podcast. Come on.
Actually, if everybody started doing that, then we'd be fine where we were. We've got a fantastic guest, as per usual, and this is coming from many requests,
yes.
which we have not, tossed in the circular bin. We've just... things take time sometimes.
Sometimes the stars have to align.
Yes, and this time we've got a star indeed. Introduce yourself, please.
Hey, everybody out there. My name is Mike Wohl. I'm in Tacoma, Washington, and I work for Lollar Pickups.
Lollar Pickups.
Yes, my dad was born in Tacoma.
Really?
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah.
City of Destiny.
And yeah. That was a long time ago. But a lovely area. I like it up there.
It's beautiful here. Yeah. Lollar started on an island, actually, right off of Tacoma, Vashon Island. And we've been in downtown Tacoma for about 10 years now.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, we have got a great show because we are talking to... what, Tony? I'm gonna let you kind of give an adjective on what kind of a thing is this a Paramount? It is a Paramount. This is a Paramount.
Don't
ask
my opinion if you're going to fill the words in yourself.
Well, you didn't. Usually, fair play. All right, full point. Begin. Okay.
Excellent.
Yes. How would you classify this, Tony?
I would say that I can't boil it down to just one word.
Okay.
But
I just did, you mean?
Yeah, just like you did.
That's why I did that.
The thing about Lollar is Lollar Pickups is, to me, they are one of the original. We'll call them at that point boutique guitar pickup makers.
Mm-hmm.
And I have never. Found a Lollar pickup that I did not like.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're wonderful pickups. So,
okay,
hats off to Jason.
There you go,
the man himself. Well, thank you guys for saying so. We take a lot of pride in what we do, and the quality of sound and reliability that's baked into what we do is a big part of the identity there. So I'm glad it's hitting for you.
Yeah, well, when we get into the actual interview part, I definitely want to touch on how. Obviously the company has grown substantially and and how you are able to maintain, that kind of boutique edge, I guess you would say. So we'll talk a little bit more about that when we get to the interview portion.
Casual Thursdays.
Okay.
Yeah, Casual Thursday. Is that what it is?
Tropical Thursdays at Lollar, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Tony, do you have any announcements at this time?
At this time, I do not have any announcements, Todd.
Okay. The only announcement that I have is that finally, next week, we'll be able to actually
about time
share some of the things. Most of the things.
Yes.
There's still some things coming in that we are going to be doing for our 10th anniversary because next Saturday is our 10th anniversary.
Yes.
And actually, when this comes out, it will be at the end of the week.
I see.
So, if that makes sense. Yes.
Yeah, I'm still pretty confused, but I'm okay.
It's okay.
But yeah, 10 stinking years.
Yep.
What's the anniversary present for 10 years? Is it like wood or...
we actually looked this up. It is tin or aluminum.
Yes. So Tony's going to buy me a guitar pedal, and I'm going to buy him a can of Coke.
Okay.
Like not even the brand name kind.
Yeah, give me the Kroger, Kroger brand.
Yeah,
Cola.
Yeah. COLA.
Yeah, we got some awesome things planned for our listeners, specifically our supporters. I do want to make that clear because they deserve to be rewarded. They've kept our show afloat for a long time.
And we also have, as we approach the end of this year, we will be approaching our 500th episode.
Yes.
And we've got some very special things planned for that.
Downloads.
How many million?
A million downloads.
About 1 million downloads, you say?
Yes.
We're talking out of the side of our mouth.
Anyways, beyond that, one of the things I love talking about is what's going on in our music world this week.
Yes.
And the fabulous Tanya Bolonsky.
What was the word you used for Lollar?
The who? The Paramount?
Paramount. The Paramount. I want to be the Paramount.
You're the Paramount? You're not the Paramount. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
What's bigger than the Paramount? See what I did there? Okay, Tony's going to kick us off. He's going to share what's going on in our music world this week, and then we're going to check in with Mike.
Yeah, well, so I think last time we got together, two things I want to talk about. Last time we got together, I got picked up one of the Esquire Deluxes. That was a stupid deal of the day on Musician's Friend. And basically, it's a single pickup, 70s Telly, well, in this case, Esquire, with the big guard Deluxe, Strat headstock and everything like that. It's just really cool. I mean, I was so happy with it. It was an incredibly low price. It does a lot of things. I'm a big fan of single pickup guitars. This one has a single wide range humbucker in it. And then it's got a coil tap and a bypass for the controls as well. So this paranormal series that Squire has put together, I mean, they're just doing all kinds. They do the kinds of things that I would do if I were there. And this is one of them. So I'm really, really happy with this. Secondly, I got to spend a little bit of time with my friend and friend of the podcast, Mark Chatfield.
Oh.
A neighbor of mine, unfortunately, her husband passed away, and she had some equipment. He was a bass player and singer and different things like that, and she had some equipment that I took a look at, and I said, well, this is something. So she knew it was a 60s Fender P bass. She wasn't quite sure of what, and I took a look at it. It was, unfortunately, it originally was a Candy Apple Red 65 precision bass, which would have been worth a lot of money because it's a custom color. But somewhere along the line, this guy had, stripped it. Apparently the finish was bad, did a bad black refin on it. And it just really, it went from, what could have been, a $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, maybe $10,000 bass down to about maybe a $5,000 bass.
Player grade.
It's a total player grade. And so Mark Chatfield, in addition to being a great guitar player, he's owned several companies, and he's got, currently his company is Trademark Guitars. So he's a wheeler dealer kind of guy. And I knew that he would be a good fit for something like this. And he's always been very fair with pricing on stuff that I've sold to him or bought from him. He's just an all around, top-notch guy.
Yeah.
So I called him in, and we met up and took a look at it. And we literally tore the bass apart. Yes, and she didn't mind. My neighbor,
just trying to match numbers and stuff.
Well, just to see, we got the heel was dated May of '65. The pots and everything checked out. So he just wanted to make sure, and of course, he ended up giving her a very fair price for it. But the beauty of it is, as I was looking at this thing, I crack open the case, and inside is a script logo MXR Phase 90.
Oh.
There you go.
And I said, this is worth a lot of money. And she was like, I don't know,
Yeah.
And to her, maybe it was $100, a lot of money. No, Mark ended up, because Mark needed it because he's doing a tour with Grand Funk Railroad again.
Right.
And so he said, I need one of these. So so he made her a really good deal on that bass.
But did it have the original case?
No.
Oh.
But as we were going home, Mark says, the reason I bought that? I said, I don't know, you wanted a 60s bass. He said, well, I was over at the Music Around, and they had a 60s Fender bass case there for $65, so I bought it. So he had the case for this.
Had the case. Now
for
I
this
just need to
bass.
find a guitar.
Yeah, so it was, but the beauty of it is spending time with, I mean, I know enough about guitars to get into trouble, but he just immediately, he looked at the pot codes. Oh, okay, that's right. Those are 65 pots, and did it have pearl dots or does it have clay dots? Oh, okay, yeah, all right. Yeah, is it a transition logo? It's like, okay. So he knew, without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
He had it nailed down to a really, and that's, I guess that comes with experience.
Yep.
So
he's got a lot of it.
Yes, indeed.
Very cool. Mike, how about yourself? What's going on in your music world that doesn't involve, hopefully, making pickups or repping pickups or building pickups or anything pickup related?
Okay, so off the clock. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a fun time lately. I'm waiting for a pretty exciting guitar to be built for me that is coming out of coming from Satellite, in the LA area.
Yeah.
Pretty excited about that. Got to check one out at Woodwire and Volts, and had to figure out a way to get one for myself. So that's something to look forward to. I've been playing some music with some coworkers and friends. As I mentioned, I got a little kid, and the day job limits my time a little bit, so it's slow going, but we're having a blast doing it.
Hey, back to the Satellite. Which model are you looking at?
You spoke of single bridge pickup guitars earlier, and I'm not sure how much I can disclose about that.
Yes, I'm aware of the model of which you speak.
Yeah, it's a very fine slab body mahogany build with a single bridge P90.
Yes, I am aware of that one.
So thankfully I know where to get a nice dog ear P90 in there. So I'm really looking forward to that.
Nice.
I'm a big admirer of Adam's work there, and it was great. I'd been watching that model for years, and when I saw one in person at Woodwire and Volts, I was like, okay, let's figure this out. So that's been the thing I'm kind of excited about these days. Other than the weather getting a little bit nicer around here in the Puget Sound, spending some time outdoors, and
Nice.
People come out of the woodwork a little bit. So rehearsals, band practices, a little bit of songwriting going on here and there.
Nice.
And then, of course, the obligations of, the day-to-day, working at Lollar and everything that comes along with that.
Nice.
Outstanding.
Excellent. Todd, what about you?
Well, I want to find out, what kind of music are you drawn to play?
So these days I play a lot of stuff that, you could draw a pretty good line to kind of late 70s kind of power pop stuff, stuff like The Nerves or, kind of early Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Clash, stuff like that. Energetic but tuneful. In my younger years, I played a lot of, hardcore, metal, kind of crusty stuff, as well as, a lot of kind of like heavy psych rock, kind of drawn out, jammy, like Uriah Heep, Black Sabbath kind of stuff too.
Yeah.
But these days, I've been enjoying just kind of writing, more succinct kind of, melodic hook-based stuff. I also did a lot of acoustic music for a long time that sort of drew on the John Fahey, Leo Kottke kind of American primitive guitar thing, along with, kind of just a lot of roots American music, the Mississippi John Hurt kind of fingerstyle guitar. So, my interests and tastes go a lot of different directions, but these days it's kind of back to the basics rock and roll stuff.
Yeah, man. Well, it's still around for a reason.
Yes,
yeah,
it
it's
is.
timeless. It's fun. It makes people feel good. It's it's exciting.
Yeah, I can dig it.
Now, what about you, Todd?
Thank you. Well, this week I was I had an awful lot going on, and I tried to narrow this down because some of the stuff I still can't talk about quite yet. But I was very busy with very busy.
You're so
with that.
hush hush. You're so secretive.
But I did get a whole box
Ooh.
of pedals from Asheville Music Tools
Oh,
that I put on this handy board for Tony Baloney.
oh, that's
So
nice.
he can try them out. This includes it includes their phaser, their chorus and vibe, their flanger, and the thing that like everybody pretty much knows them for, which is the ADG1 delay. They all share the same, almost the exact same footprint.
I would say.
So they've done a really good job of saying, well, if it's some modulation, why wouldn't it just be following the same kind of suit? So they each have loads and loads of features and options. It's pretty remarkable stuff. So,
are they from Asheville, North Carolina?
Correctamundo.
Nice. I love that little town.
So, yeah, pretty good stuff. We're going to be talking to them really soon, and it was a pleasure going through. And they're the kind of pedals where you say, "Okay, I got this," and then you're like, "Wait a minute, I need to spend some time with this because this is doing all kinds of stuff." But the interesting thing, one of the interesting things was the analoger delay specifically. I could be dead wrong. It's been known to happen, but what I found is that it's almost made for slapback, like almost specifically, because the sweep on it. I mean, I had to go past 12 to get past a slapback thing. So it is unique in that, because usually delays are like, you get a little tiny bit of that up front, and then you start getting into these long, just like, delay forever kind of thing. And this one was very interesting because that whole sweep just gave you all the different ranges of slapback. Now, again, maybe I'm doing it wrong, but that's what my initial experience was. And most of the people that I talk to are really into that right now. So it's interesting.
I can't wait to try these out. They look really cool.
I got it on the board right along with these amazing patch cables.
I noticed how those are all hooked together. What a beautiful job.
Thank you. And I couldn't have done it without the help of Tour Gear Design's patch cables.
I'm aware.
Yeah, so we got 4 patch cables on there.
There's more than 4.
There's 5.
1, 2, 3. Oh, let me see.
Oh, yeah, because I have another pedal up there. I forgot about that. Yeah, we also have the super cool Thneed.
Everyone needs a Thneed.
Yeah, so I thought that'd be a good way to drive it. And again, that's got a really small footprint, but it has great range for drive. And it's also hooked up to the GP5.
The Veloton.
Yep. And so that way Tony can listen to it either through his headphones or bypass that and put it into his amp.
There you go. I'm going to do both.
Yes. So if you are interested in dialing in your pedal board really clean and very affordable and very useful, you want to get yourself some Tour Gear Designs patch cables. And in order to do that, you need to go to their website.
Yes, load up the cart.
And why do you load up the cart?
Well, because you're going to want all the shapes and sizes and all the stuff.
I thought you were going to say it's because there's a killer offer on there.
Well, there is a killer offer.
Yes.
But not until you're ready to check out.
Right. So go ahead, load up the cart, hit purchase, and then put in the guitar knobs, and you're going to get 15% off your purchase.
Did you say 15%?
15%. Yep.
These are already tremendously priced.
They really are, and they're going to ship them right out of Canada, right to your face.
Oh, wow.
It's going to be great. Thank you to Tour Gear for sponsoring our 4 on the Floor.
Let me get a little bit of this.
1, 2, 3.
4 on the floor.
All right. Mike Wohl from Lollar Pickups. What is your 4 on the floor?
4 on the floor, here we go. So first and foremost, I'm never without my KGR Harmony Arare Overdrive. Some of you may have seen Lollar did an overdrive pedal a few years back, and it was a partnership with KGR Harmony Effects out of Japan's Iwate Prefecture. A beautiful artisan cast iron enclosure with a really unique aesthetic that's very traditional and elegant, but also a super versatile overdrive. 3-band EQ. What I like about it a lot is the active mid control. So it works really well with a variety of pickup styles. But it kind of traces its topology to the Paul Cochran Tim sort of style, but that added active mid control adds a level of versatility that I find just works with everything. I play a lot of single coil guitars, so a lot of Tele bridge pickups, but P90s, I dig them too, or humbuckers with single coil characteristics like Firebirds. I find that it works really well for maintaining that top end clarity that I really like, because I tend to be a bridge pickup guy. So that one, can't live without it. The Lollar version 2, if you can find one, does the same thing.
Now, which model do you have? The what color?
So right now I've got the black one on my board. I also have the Lollar version, as you might imagine. I got the inside scoop on that pre-release.
Yes. Yeah, that black one is really something.
Yeah, the builder, Keijiro Fukushima, is a really good friend of mine, too. And, I help him out with U.S. operations. So a little bit of a bias towards his products, but I wouldn't have started getting to know him if it weren't for my admiring of what he does in the first place. So that leads me to another plug for his compressor, which is a Ross style. It's called Orochi. And I pretty much run the compressor on all the time. A lot of what I do musically has its kind of roots in melodic, kind of like we were talking about, late 70s, early 80s kind of stuff. And I find that it's kind of just a secret sauce for, as you might imagine, smoothing things out, bringing those highs and lows a little closer together and, covering for some of my sloppy playing. So I love that. That's, a raw style comp called Orochi by KJR Harmony. Beyond that, Boss Super Chorus. If you like early 80s sounds, it's pretty tough to do without something like that. I decided I wanted to pick apart that Replacements Tune answering machine. I was like, well, I needed the chorus pedal for that. And I was like, okay, perfect. Drive, open A tuning. There you go. You're off to the races. Nice. I like pedals that, nail something that's familiar to you right out the gate. I tend to be more of a, use it as a tool rather than get lost in exploring the sounds. Yep. I really admire people who play creatively that way, but I'm kind of a means to an end player. I want stuff that sounds good, that helps me get to something I'm already trying to do. So I can get kind of confused or overwhelmed with, really complex, like modulation and time-based types of pedals. So Simplicity is the name of the game, something classic, Super Chorus, love it. And then along with, time bass and modulation.
The Strymon Big Sky. Oh, same.
Opposite side of the coin. Earthquaker devices, they're silos. I love it. EQD is a company I have a ton of respect and admiration for. I think they're great people who build great products and do it in the right way. And, the switchable modes from, the analog, digital, and kind of tape sound, I find kind of cover all of the bases that I need for, a do-it-all type of delay pedal. And actually, you were mentioning, too, using delays kind of almost more like a slapback. I find myself doing that a lot just to kind of fill out a lot of my playing at home with some, more body. At home, I'm usually playing, through a late 70s Vibrachamp. So it could sound a little dry through that little 8-inch speaker in there. And having that just, it sounds rich and musical. And you can go totally crazy with it, too, if you want to, like, especially with the digital mode. You get those really rich, long, shimmering kind of tails and trails. But I tend to keep it a little on the simpler side of things. So there you go. 4 on the floor.
All right. Well, your last thing just spurred my memory here. We just had we had Orange County Pedals, OC Pedals on the show recently, and he has 2 pedals out, but one of them, actually, everybody that I've put in touch with this and everything I've heard about it, they love both of these pedals. But the Laguna, they've got a single knob. It's like a verb. It's like a little bit of verb and a little bit of chorus, and you can dial the little bit to a little bit more or a little bit less. It's really simple, but it does a fantastic job of doing exactly what you just said, which is like just filling it out a bit,
Yeah.
And without it being like, oh, I've got a delay on or a big reverb or anything,
Yeah, I love to use stuff that's simple to the point where you can't find a bad sound in it. And so much of what you're describing about that pedal sounds like it'd be right up my alley for that reason. So
just check it out.
Check that out.
Yeah, definitely.
The Laguna.
Yeah, I bet he'd be pretty stoked to connect with you. So
definitely. Thanks for the tip.
Yeah. Anyways, Well, that's a pretty solid 4 on the floor, and I absolutely respect the, it's tools, it's knives. It's you don't need a food processor. I need a knife.
Give me a sling blade.
Yeah. So, anyways, we're gonna transition from pedals into the things that makes our guitars make it work. Basically, let's talk about some pickups and stuff, man.
Pick 'em ups.
Pickups,
right.
man. So, tell us first of all, give us a better understanding of like what your role is at Lollar, and then we want we'd love to hear how you came about getting there and all that great stuff. But start there.
Sure. So at Lollar, I do a lot of things, and they all involve talking to people. First and foremost, if you call the shop up or send us an email, I'm one of the people you're most likely to talk to, along with my colleagues and good friends, Bob and Ian. So we make up the customer service and sales team. Beyond that, Lollar is at an interesting size. We're big enough where we have the resources to kind of reach further, but still small enough where everyone has to do a lot of things. So primary obligations, I do our artist relations. So I'm often, kind of talking with working musicians who are out in the trenches about what they might want to try out to get to a certain, an end. I'm helping them find the right tool for the job, or, providing support and recommendations. And just kind of developing those relationships as well. Lollar also, in the past year and a half, has absorbed a guitar repair shop. So, and by way of doing that, I've started an administrative and kind of consultation role. So we have a repair staff of 2 people, Jeff and Nisabel, who are doing our repair work. But if you're calling up and you have questions or you want to talk about a project, I'm the person who's going to be doing the interfacing with you about, what's it going to take to get there? Will we be doing routing? Do you want this guitar shielded, I should say? Fret wire, what choices are going to be good for you based on your playing style and needs? I also do a lot of our on-camera work. When I was hired there, it wasn't because I had some special talent that they asked me to do that. It was because I was the only one willing to embarrass myself as frequently by being on camera. I am, like you guys, a Midwesterner, so talking too much and talking to everybody in the room comes very naturally to me. So I've done a lot of our kind of expository and long-form content, the sort of infotainment sort of stuff, along with some of the product demos. So one of the best parts about working for Lollar is that sort of, no 2 days are exactly the same. There's a lot of dynamism, change, and energy, kind of day to day about, you got to do what needs to be done, but it keeps me on my toes, and it's creatively and intellectually stimulating. So kind of all of that stuff and then some more, depending on what they need. I work a lot of our in-person events as well. So things like, NAMM or Woodwire and Volts. We had a booth down at Benson Fest that Benson Amplifiers put on a few years back in Portland. We've done EQD Day. I really enjoy those opportunities to, meet people, talk shop face to face, because I don't know, you make friends. It's, that's how this interaction on this podcast came up, right? You meet in person, then you're off to the races.
It's pretty easy when you think about it.
Yeah, right?
It's got to do it.
It's just got to be done.
Yeah. So before you land now, did you get there like early in your career, or were you picked up, or how did that match happen?
Yeah, so I had worked in Seattle. Tacoma and Seattle, for those of you outside the region, it's sort of like, think about like San Francisco to Oakland, 2 big independent cities, but they're neighbors. And so it's about 30, 35 miles between the two. I lived in Seattle for about 15 years. I played a ton of music. I was in bands and did solo music, and, was around the guitar business side of things, but didn't actually work in the guitar business till, I guess it was 2017. I worked at a music shop called Dusty Strings in Seattle. And Dusty Strings is a really fascinating company and a great place to cut your teeth, because you need to pick up a lot of diverse instrument knowledge to be successful, because they are, like Lollar, a manufacturing company. They build uncommon instruments, hammered dulcimers and lever harps. So things that most people don't interact with every day. So it's niche and it's specialized. But beyond that, there's also a music retail aspect of the business. There's a guitar shop, and they kind of, I wouldn't say, it's certainly not exclusive, though many years ago it was exclusively an acoustic instrument shop. But sort of acoustic guitars are a specialty of that shop. And then, in the past decade or so, they've expanded to carry amplifiers, effects, and electric instruments. But it, was a great learning experience for learning things about consistency of materials. Like, it turns out that sapele as a harp material mirrors a lot of what you'd expect from an acoustic guitar. Things like that. Maple is common in both, for instance. And you learn the language of talking about these things, but also you have to develop the sort of cognitive framework for just talking about instruments, playing feel, response, dynamic range, tonal characteristics. And if you can learn that about something that you don't play, like I do not play harp or hammered dulcimer, I think you have a big leg up on kind of applying it more broadly. So I worked there for about, maybe 4 years or so. And then in 2021, my wife and I moved to Tacoma right before our son was born. We bought a house in the South Sound and made the move. And I was looking for, basically any job I could find because it was kind of a time crunch. And then one of my former colleagues at Dusty, Jeff Hope, who is an excellent, renowned repair technician, he had left Dusty Strings and moved back to Tacoma, where he started his independent repair shop, South Sound Guitar Repair. And he said, "Hey, man, put your resume in at Lollar today. They got a guy leaving. You got to get in there." And I did. And I actually interviewed for a pickup building position that I didn't end up getting. But they called me a couple days later, and they're like, "Well, actually, a sales team customer service position opened up kind of unexpectedly. And they thought I would be a good fit." And so, I had my last day of work at Dusty Strings on a Saturday and moved an air mattress into my empty house in Tacoma and started at Lollar on Monday morning.
Oh, that's awesome.
And, it's been about 5 years now. It's been wonderful. The staff, my colleagues, they're my friends as well. It's a company that is run and worked at by just wonderful people who are hardworking, kind, intelligent, and funny. So, none of the things I have myself, so it's a great compliment. But yeah, that's how I kind of ended up there. And one of the really rewarding things about Lollar is that, over that course of time, there's been a lot of room to kind of, try new stuff, to expand. I think I could say pretty comfortably that we are a company that's excitedly looking towards the future rather than being, intimidated or, scared about what it brings. We're well positioned with a great crew of people who are really, really passionate about what they do and really good at it. So, I think it's a great environment to be in, and I've been very fortunate that I found a place there.
Outstanding.
Nice.
Yeah. That's a great background. Thank you so much. That gives us a very good understanding of how you're approaching what we're going to be talking about, and glad that you're there doing that. And you're also, you do a lot of video stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, when I started at Lollar, I was, kind of the loudest and most extroverted guy in a lot of the rooms. So they asked if I'd be comfortable on camera, and I said, yeah, absolutely. So along with my colleague, Jimmy Davis, who's worked for Lollar for a very long time, probably 11 or 12 years, if not more at this point, we kind of started developing sort of a video program, almost sort of a style guide, a format, and it's come a long way. We've experimented with kind of, more of the infotainment side of things, and then very technical content, sort of how to, as well as just straight up product demos. And so recently we've kind of expanded our media and video capacities as well. We brought on a new hire recently who's a guitar repair technician and, videographer, on-camera person as well. Nisabel, if you've seen her YouTube channel, she's well known from that. And now we're really fortunate to have her along with Jimmy and I on the video team, but also doing repair, along with Jeff, who I mentioned previously as being my into Lollar. He's the guy whose repair shop we absorbed. So it's all one big happy family.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's a great community vibe, no doubt about it.
Very cool. Well, one thing that we can say about Lollar is that you have no shortage of options for pickups.
Yeah.
That for all kinds of players. So I think we're a little bit at your mercy as far as how do you want to approach sharing some of that information?
Sure. Well, I tend to think it's helpful when someone looks at our product catalog to put things into buckets. And one of the easiest buckets to group what we do in terms of pickup manufacturing into is, does this have a vintage precedent or is it something unique? And that, you can kind of organize everything that way. So Jason Lollar's background, first and foremost, he was a working musician and still plays to this day. And he went to Roberto Venn in the late 70s, learned guitar building, and actually some pickup manufacturing at that time as well. So a lot of what he was seeking to recreate early on, like before Lollar was, a company, when it was really just him doing a lot of this stuff, was, he gets his hand on a vintage guitar and, how can I replicate this sound for myself? And how can I make it so that it's reliable enough to play 200 gigs a year on it? So a lot of the original Lollar designs come from those 2 points, needing to be able to sound great and be expressive and musical, but also to be reliable, something that you can count on and depend on when you're making your living with that sort of thing. So early on, Jason's P90 designs, his Strat designs, his Tele designs, and his PAF style designs are kind of what really gets people talking. And originally the company was intended to be a guitar manufacturing company, but it turns out, as you might not be surprised, you can build a whole lot more pickups in a given day than you can guitars. So, long story short, demand takes off. People Jason knows from the music scene start, hey man, can you make those for me too? And it really grew quite organically. Jason and Stephanie Lollar are people who were out in the world, gigging, playing all over the region, going to their day jobs, going home and building pickups. I mean, just grinding, working really hard because I think they realized that they had a good idea. And at that time, there weren't a lot of other people doing it too. So the next big thing happens. Jason writes a book about how to build your own pickup winding machine. And he's got sort of this unique sort of combination of things. There's the artistic and musical part of the brain, of course, but he's also got that kind of machinist or maker's mind too. And, in my experience, at least, it's really rare to find a person who has both of those parts of their brain working together. So that book actually ended up being a huge success too, that further kind of put his name on the map. You're building great pickups that people love the sound of too, but you're also kind of becoming a resource for this, growing kind of community, this idea that, a lot of guitar companies build great pickups, but, what can we improve about these things? And of course, you need the machine to do that work in the first place. So, the original Lollar sewing machine design, literally sewing machine parts in, Jason's mom's basement, decades and decades ago, leads to this design that he wrote this book that's kind of anchored around. And then, things keep growing. Lollar picked up some OEM clients, National Resophonic among the first. Nash Guitars was another big one to help build. And then Collings Guitars. Some of those remain our biggest clients to this day. And, it's one of those true family business kind of organic things in which, Jason and Stephanie, they do it, and their daughter Tara, and then eventually Tara's son Seth, and Stephanie's mom. I've been in the building when 4 generations of one family is working under the same roof. So I think the work ethic, the quality, these things really spoke to people. And you put it in your guitar, and all of a sudden the light bulb goes off. That's what it was missing. So that all kind of that era. What I'm talking about is kind of the early 90s mostly. The company officially starts in 1995. So last year was our 30th anniversary. And really, I think what kind of cements what you think of today when you think of Lollar is a lot of what happened kind of in the 2000s, when it really becomes, not necessarily a household name, but among pickup manufacturers, if you know any of them, you've heard of Lollar too.
Man, have you shared that information before? Or?
Yeah, I've been forced to give the spiel a couple of times.
No, that's awesome. I mean, you very succinctly got us completely into an understanding of, all right, what makes it tick, what started making it tick, and where's it going to tick to?
Yeah, definitely. I think especially when people start to understand, you have this idea, a lot of people in the guitar world, of this, kind of crusty old wizard who's, got this, stroke of brilliance, and, this person is, touching things that turn to magic by candlelight. And people kind of think that about Jason, that, he's working on this, foot crank kind of pickup winding machine, by the, an oil lantern under the full moon. And that's where all the mojo comes from. But really what it is research, extensive note taking, not being able to say that's good enough, and just trial and error. Jason was a guy who early on, as I just mentioned, you can literally say he wrote the book on building pickups, and it's, it's not facetious. He's a guy who was taking apart old PAFs before there was, the gear page or any of the forums we rely on now, or, old Strat pickups. And he's sending magnets away to chemistry labs at universities for burn tests to determine the composition of them. Before this was common knowledge, or he was using like a spin cast fishing reel to unspool turns from the bobbin in a PAF to figure out, man, this one sounds really good. How many turns is going to get you there? Because, this will come as no surprise to you guys, but consistency was not always the name of the game at Fender and Gibson in the 1950s. The pickup was a part of a guitar, right? It was, I wouldn't say an afterthought, but, just a minor component to a whole system. And I think what you really start to see with, originally Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio, you see this kind of idea of aftermarket pickups, and they're kind of the, first light bulbs going off in many ways. And then you see kind of a second wave of it with people like Jason and many of his colleagues. And it's funny in that book, in some senses, created a lot of competitors for him. But he is a longtime moderator on the Steel Guitar Forum, all over the gear page. He's always been an accessible person who is willing to share and communicate expertise and experience that he found out himself too. So in addition to building things well and making things that people need, he's really been a part of the community at large. And I think it's not an exaggeration to say that he had a big hand in kind of, shaping that community too. For sure. So we celebrated his retirement along with Stephanie's as of the first of this year. And I think that's a great milestone for kind of the legacy, but also it's an exciting time for those of us who are working at the company now, because, we have this obligation to keep this legacy going and to kind of, look out toward the future. They built this thing, with blood, sweat, and tears. How can we respect and honor that legacy and continue to grow? One answer has been, when we got to our topic of buckets, we've got vintage pickup styles, locked down in many senses. We have designs we like. What can we design that either hasn't been done or that suits needs of players that, aren't just looking for a classic PAF sound? Because, go figure, there's lots of them who don't draw their musical influences from those eras. So a big part of the exciting energy at Lollar right now is that sort of thing. What's next? The repair shop, as I mentioned, is a big part of it. And our media capacity has been also enriching, because we can really connect with people directly and deeply through that.
I imagine you guys get a lot of requests, hey, when you guys going to make, this pickup from, whatever obscure guitar in history. I'm just curious to know how that works, and when does it become either from suggestion outside or inside, or from an artist or something, to actually go into hey guys, maybe we should really do this?
That's a great question. Usually the answer is, can we make it, or can we make an approximation of it with things that we either have on hand or can manufacture in-house? We're really fortunate that we have, like I was saying, a lot of people think that, it's just Jason building pickups in a shed, by candlelight. We're a company of about 25 people in, a 9,000 square foot factory in downtown Tacoma. And we have a lot of production capacity in-house. So, lasers that we use to cut our own flat work, for bobbins for various pickup types. So we have a really creative team. Our production manager and designer, Kevin Moe, is the tip of that spear. He's incredible. He's one of the most hardworking.
We met him at NAMM, actually. That's how we.
So I mean, he is. I think it's fair to say, sort of the torchbearer now from Jason. He's worked for Lollar for about 20 years, but Kevin's got the drive and the intellect and the talent. If you describe something to him, he's like, I've got an idea. And in half an hour, you see a mock-up of it, basically. So when someone asks us about something that's, can you build this pickup from this obscure 60s guitar? If we can use magnets, wire, and parts that we already have on hand, like, we'll take a stab at it right away. If it requires unique metal parts and tooling, that's where we have to start considering things a little bit differently. I'm sure you guys are well aware that the upfront costs for, making unique metal parts, usually there's minimum order quantities from suppliers and tooling costs. So we have to consider, what's the market for this like? Are there a lot of these instruments in the world that people will want to replace pickups in if it's a vintage style thing, or will new contemporary builders build guitars around this thing? So we have to consider it from, sort of what do we have to do in order to build it, and kind of who's it for? We love to say yes to those things as much as possible. There are cases in which, especially when it comes to unique metal parts, where, the price tag just to get up and running, much less develop, a version that we're happy with, is really high. So we get a lot of people who are asking for a one-off, like the Dynasonic pickup, hands down. It's the thing people request the most these days. But something more obscure than that, maybe it's like, can you build me a one-off of these? It's like, well, yeah, but it might cost $10,000.
Yeah.
That usually gives them a little hesitation, but so a lot of it is that kind of, we take sort of the idea of curating a product line seriously. When you think of PAFs, for instance, or Strat pickups, there's a lot of variation over many decades of, Strats, and, like we were talking about with consistency not always being the name of the game, there's a lot of different PAF sounds. So there are a lot of ways you can approach getting those sounds. And sometimes I think it's a challenge for companies to make decision-making easier for customers. You can take two approaches. One is you can have limited versions that represent kind of averages at the best of something. And the other approach is you can offer customers the ability to choose every individual spec, their turn count, their wire type, the magnet type, et cetera, et cetera. And we kind of shift more towards we do 3 versions of the Imperial, our PAF style pickup, because that's what we found works the best for the widest variety of players and doesn't result in people being stuck with something that oh, hey, I saw these specs on a forum and I think they'll be good. Can you build me this? And it ends up not kind of meeting what they were hoping for. So we definitely kind of take that idea of, Jason being the guy who, he's a musician and a listener, and he's a set of ears that's incredible first and foremost, and then he's a maker and a builder to build things that kind of suit the needs of others like himself, right? Working musicians in the trenches. So I think that the company is fortunate with that, and that we don't kind of have a product line that's so complex and that there's so much variation in that people are just overwhelmed or, beset by decision fatigue when they're like, which of the 50 different Strat models should I get? Because they're all so different. We try and make it easy and sort of generally era based, at least with Strats, for instance.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a philosophy in product curation as well. I wouldn't say, it's not in a company handbook, but it's just kind of how things have worked for us over the years.
Right. I was kind of curious, in addition to guitar and bass pickups, you also have a pretty wide variety of steel guitar pickups. Was that something that Jason was into and developed from that, or was it going into like, I get a lot of customers that are building like cooter casters that use, a gold foil and a Chicago steel bridge pickup. And so I was kind of curious about that.
Yeah, a great question. Jason is a really brilliant musician, and he plays steel guitar very, very well. He's also just generally like, a historian and a person interested in, the development of electric instruments, and you can't ignore steel guitar if that's something that you're, curious about. So yeah, it's something that he plays, that he designed, also for his own reasons. But, I think he's just been very close with a lot of players in that world over the years. We work with a lot of great steel players and, people working in that industry. And I think oftentimes they're kind of left out just because, other pickup companies maybe, they never had a reason to develop that. They didn't have people asking them, or, the people building didn't have the background like Jason has as a player of steel guitar himself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's, I was putting a list together of Lollar pickups that I've used in some of my projects, and that would include several Imperials. I've used broilers, P90s, Charlie Christians, gold foils, just recently the Johnny Smith jazz guitar pickup, and Lollartrons. And I mean, as I said earlier, I have never been disappointed with the sound that comes out of these pickups. And
I'm glad to hear that. Your check is in the mail.
Excellent. Yes, now, if I say that again, is it double the size of the check? No.
It's residuals.
Yeah. But you can have double the size. I'll have double the zeros.
Oh, the zeros. Yeah. But a lot of people struggle with finding the ultimate PAF style pickup, and I've used a fair number of them, and I found some, sometimes they're just outrageously expensive. People get into this, and they're, I don't know exactly. In my opinion, it's kind of difficult to put that many variations, and unless you're using some special mojo or, I don't know what it is. But I've always found like, the Imperials are great sounding PAF style pickups. Pop them in. If you're not happy with the Gibson pickups that are in your guitar, throw some Imperials in, see if you like those. And the same, it's just like as we go through the list. I mean, earlier I said, a lot of guys are building cooter casters where they're using a steel guitar pickup and a gold foil in the, I guess, middle neck position and things like that. And it's beautiful that people have those options now. I mean, back in the 80s when I was playing and trying to find, replacement pickups and things, there weren't a lot of choices. I mean, at that point in time, what I did, what a lot of people did, and like on my Jaguar, my bridge pickup died, and so nobody that I knew of at that time was winding Jaguar pickups. So what did I do? I routed it for a humbucker. Why not, right?
Put a super distortion in there?
Yeah, of course. Why wouldn't? That's yeah. You go down to the music store, and then he says, "Here, try one of these," and that's what it is. But yeah, that's really about it. But I love the fact that there's all these options that players today have. And and they're not breaking the bank either. I mean, that's
we really strive. I mean, we are a U.S. based manufacturing company on the West Coast, and we want to make sure that our products are accessible to people. They're not cheap, but there are things that are more expensive out there too. And we really like to think of them as, imagine being a woodworker. You got your Harbor Freight tools, and then you have the stuff that's going to last you for a few decades. It doesn't have to always be, the really precious, brass and rosewood heritage stuff, but you need something that's going to do the job every single time for you that you can count on. And I think we hit a sweet spot with that, we're not. It is really a struggle, though, to kind of find what that sweet spot is.
I have a few questions. Speaking of sweet spots, first I want to tackle. You mentioned that you guys have the vintage covered, and Vintage is one of those weird things because at least for most of Tony and I's life, it's like that's meant a certain thing. But as you have, new generations of guitar players coming in, and even ones that, are just emerging into, changing styles of rock, predominantly rock. We'll just call it rock just for, guitar music. I'll just say that, right?
I'm with you.
How have you seen, or rather, what have you seen that might be interesting or telling or giving you a glimpse of where you might start going towards in development with things? Are there requests coming in? They're like, that's really weird. We keep getting requests for like XYZ, or what are people looking for?
That's a great question. There are certain things like we were talking about earlier, like the Dynasonic is a great example of, vintage pickups that you just don't see as many other companies building versions of. So there's always going to be those like people are attracted to what's novel, what's unique, what's different. So if you can't buy it off the shelf at Guitar Center, it's got a little bit of preciousness to it. So there's always going to be something like that people are kind of looking for, this like undiscovered vintage pickup, right? It's like, oh, it's like a Fender, but with a little bit more of this, and it's a secret thing that everyone's been missing out. There's people who love that almost sort of like detective vibe, and then there's a whole other group of players, and I think a lot of it really is generational and age-based, who their influences. I mean, so I'm turning 40 in a couple of weeks.
Congratulations.
And, thank you. I started playing guitar when I was 8 or 9. So, it was mid-90s, and, all the bands you would expect me to have been influenced by. I grew up in Chicago, so Smashing Pumpkins, huge. Yeah. Nirvana, Soundgarden. These are the bands that made me want to start playing guitar. But they were, roughly contemporary at that time. They were, you heard them on the radio stations when they were putting new music out. And now that music is to younger players today as, the distance in time. Yeah, exactly. It's as far back in history as, Black Sabbath was to me as a kid, you know? So I think what you'll see is the people who are, excited about starting bands, who are younger now, are influenced by things that are completely outside of kind of the conventional guitar magazine sort of, classic rock, those are like bread and butter. Like when you go to Guitar Center, you see these guys on the wall type of players, right? Yep. So I think a lot of that also kind of intersects with vintage guitars. Just to the vast majority of guitars out there are completely inaccessible because of how expensive they become. Yeah. And so a lot of these people today who are, becoming interested in guitar and developing their interest and passion, I think they kind of write that off. Like, I'm never going to play or own a 50s or 60s Fender or Gibson guitar, so I don't care about those things really. And they're not listening to the Allman Brothers at the Fillmore, so they don't covet that type of tone. Right. It's way more stuff from, honestly, even the 90s is kind of old hat for a lot of younger players now. So, I'm finding influences that like I'm personally kind of like, wow, I guess, of course, this is the way that time works. This is that natural passage. But things that I remember as being, musicians who were my contemporaries, they became bigger bands and now they're influencing younger players. And a lot of that stuff is very different from what we think about in terms of like conventional, people's holy grail guitars. It's not, broadcasters or 57 Strats and bursts anymore, just because like those things are almost like they're such collector's items that they're things that you're just as likely to own as you are an NFL team, basically. Yeah. So I think it's a lot more people who are younger and forward looking are inspired by a lot of the kind of DIY aesthetics of punk, hardcore, and alternative rock through the 90s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s. And a lot of that was kind of just making the best of what you had access to at the time and being creative with, your guitar itself, with your modifications and kind of not being afraid to get in there. Yeah. So in terms of specific like product ends, I'm not sure that there's a lot of players who are like, I'm playing genre specific music. I play aggressive metal and I want a humbucker that's going to squeal and squelch and deliver a lot of mid-range, a lot of percussion, that's going to be focused and like draw artificial harmonics really easily. Okay, sure, we can do that. We can design around those points. And recently we released a humbucker that's very different for Lollar called the Monolith that was totally geared towards that type of playing. Essentially, metal, hardcore. Yeah, exactly. Because that's honestly these days, a lot of the staff at Lollar comes from those backgrounds as well. It's, we're kind of seeing, I think, a change of the guard generationally in a lot of that ways too. So the influences, the inspirations all change. I guess you have sort of the what's funky, what's unique and different, but what's also like what's versatile, more so than pickup types. I'm seeing a ton of interest in players who are, younger and enthusiastic about like, what can this pickup do if I get it with a four conductor lead? I want to try a global strangle switch, phase switching, and series parallel between the coils of the humbucker because I want it to have, a ton of unique tones on tap. And I think back to when I started playing guitar and I was like, I had no idea what any of those things meant. I had no idea what any of those things sounded like. Yeah. And I just think the internet and sort of the community aspect of guitar that the internet drives has really opened a lot of doors to people in terms of understanding like what's possible with a guitar. And you see a lot of creativity. It's an exciting time to be a company that, like I said before, is kind of like looking forward to the future and ready to like lean into it and meet the needs of people who are not just always going to be like, I want to sound like Jimmy Page. We kind of got that covered already. Yeah. So we can be more, we have our bread and butter pickups like Imperials or, our T-top pickups, our raw powers that'll do those things. Now we kind of have like a basis of stability in that, and we can get a little further out into the weeds.
Yeah. Yeah. Well said. I think you covered off a lot of this, where my head's questions were sitting. And it's kind of an interesting thing because we have on one hand, culture is moving so fast that the current currency is like the distance from known things. Mm-hmm. And this doesn't sound like anything. This doesn't sound like anybody. This is completely new. Even if it's, completely wackadoodle, there's still cachet in that because, okay, well, you're doing something different.
Definitely.
And then you can have that juxtaposed to like, oh, this 13-year-old kid plays exactly like Stevie Ray Vaughan. Right. And there's a faction that is going to be like, I want that. But it is interesting to me to see where, culture, fashion, music, instruments, all that stuff, where's the leading edge on that, and what are they looking for to do those things with, and a lot of it, like as you said, you guys are looking forward. So is a lot of up and coming culture, which is cool.
Definitely, and I mean I think just use cases too. It used to be that if you start playing guitar, chances are you want to perform, you want to play in a band, maybe with your friends, and you maybe want to go on stage and do it in front of some other people, and maybe you want to make a demo or a record. That's kind of a familiar paradigm or, mm-hmm. experience. But today, I think there's a lot more people who are really, really, really passionate about gear and guitar who are disinterested in doing that. And I think digital recording technology and the quality of like digital amp modeling has gotten so good that it's opened up kind of like a new kind of customer almost. We started noticing, for many years, people would ask Lollar, like, hey, will you make a noiseless P90 or a single coil? And we were like, well, that's just kind of not really our thing. There's other companies that do that, Jason's background, kind of working blues rock musician, like in the clubs, right? So as you've seen a shift, I wouldn't say, maybe it's more of an expansion, the opening up of a bigger tent, maybe when you start to think about, man, I've never been bothered by single coil hum because I'm playing, in some greasy local club to, a bunch of drunk people. You probably had a few myself, Yeah, exactly. It sounds like rock and roll to me, right?
If I plug in, I want.
Yeah, it sounds a little dangerous. It sounds like electricity. And, when you start playing, you don't hear it. But for this kind of, I think, sort of newer, like almost user story, customer profile of like the person who's really focused on music, maybe for kind of a personal development thing, they take their gear and they're playing very seriously, but they're mostly playing through, their headphones at home, or they're really, really nitpicking their own recordings. Yeah. So they hear that hum and that buzz and it drives them absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And so that argument of like, well, hey man, when, you plug in the club, you're not going to hear it. It's like, they're not going to do that. So it doesn't really matter. If they're bothered by something, that's an opportunity to help them. That's an opportunity to create solutions. That's an opportunity to make tools for people that help them get closer to, the types of tones and sounds that they're hearing in their heads. And so that's been a big shift at Lollar too. We have started to offer some, I almost hesitate to call them noiseless designs, because really what they are unique humbucking designs that are voiced to sound like single coils. So our DC90 was kind of the first real, here, we did it. We did what people asked for. It sounds like our P90s minus the hum. And it really was enough sort of people just coming to us over and over and starting to realize it wasn't that they were, they weren't happy with the, offerings for noiseless pickups that were already out there, maybe felt like they were a little sterile or uninspired. They wanted something that we were doing, but there was a problem that we weren't solving. And I think you start to shift your own sort of point of view to be like, oh, maybe I can see that person's perspective. Now, maybe I do get why it's a problem, even if it's not a problem for me, coming from the background of like, yeah, I'm playing in the clubs, through the mud and the blood and the beer. So I think that's another type of shift in guitarists and in how the industry will continue to cater to, we're not necessarily in this industry selling the dream of like the Led Zeppelin jumbo jet anymore. It's just not real. It's not happening. And that type of benchmark for success it's a thing of the past, I think. Yeah. Now it's a lot more about, first of all, the price of entry price point guitars. What you can get for that now compared to what you could get 30 years ago. It's incredible. Yeah. I mean,
we're looking at one on the desk right here. It's like, I can't believe how little that costs.
A sub $300 guitar. Yeah.
It's incredible.
And it's pretty good. Yeah. I mean, maybe it needs a couple of things, but I think that's really opened the doors to a lot of people too. Yeah. And, if you're passionate about it, you start to hear, maybe I went to my friend's house and I played her guitar and it sounded better than mine. So what's bad about mine that I could fix?
Exactly.
And, you can replace these electronic components. People will call us up all the time and be like, hey, I'm sorry. I know this is a stupid question, but is it crazy to put, a $300 or $400 set of pickups in my Squire? And we always say, absolutely not. That's what everybody who works here does.
Yeah. Seriously.
Guilty.
Yeah, totally. Because we're really fortunate in that regard that, the more affordable instruments are such great platforms that I think they've opened a lot of doors for people to be creative and kind of customizing and tweaking stuff for their own tastes.
Yeah. And, if you get a good pickup, then you're like, well, now I got to build a guitar around this. And that's and when you trade stuff, sometimes that happens.
Yeah,
definitely.
The last thing I wanted to mention about what we were just talking about was one thing that I am wildly excited for. And I'm sure most of us of the age, wherever at actually, is there is such a thirst and a, I guess, a magnetism towards the analog world right now.
Sure.
The rejection of, we're just so digitized. And, I got 3 daughters, and that's something that we talk about often with, like looking for experiences, not just music. But the thing is, that's going to encompass music. So you're talking about the jumbo jet. Nobody's going to be worrying about that anymore. It's going to be like, who's got the best basement area to have little tiny shows and just go off the walls, full blown analog, and not worry about things. And I'm just super, super excited for that wave of people coming. the last thing I was going to ask, which is again probably one of the more common questions you might get, but I want to trying to keep our listeners in mind for a few common effects, a few common things to consider. Now that you may have, hey, I got this old guitar and I want to make it, I want to make it sound better, or I have a brand new budget guitar that I want to make it sound better. What are a few things that people who might be new to this, or even might be pretty old, might want to consider when first taking this path?
Absolutely. It's a question we field all day long. And I think kind of it's a little bit funny, but the thing that people are so scared about that we're like, no, you have to do it, is adjusting your pickup height can make such a massive difference in terms of what you hear that, I always encourage people if they reach out and they're like, hey, I got a specialty and it's not quite what I thought. Well, have you toyed around with lowering or raising it? I had a customer recently send me, we're closed every weekend for 3 days. We do Monday through Thursday, 10-hour days. And I swear there were maybe 5 or 6 emails that I came back to from this one customer who was very intelligent and passionate about gear. And a lot of it was, I asked Gemini and ChatGPT, like, this pickup isn't the right thing for me. So, what should I do? It recommended I, maybe exchange it for this or try that or change the pots. And then the last email was, please disregard all of that. I raised the pickup. It sounds much better. So, yeah, absolutely. I wish I was making it up. But, AI doesn't play guitar and you do. So trust your ears. I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that someone could get at any stage. It doesn't matter if you're a deep veteran or a brand new player or somewhere in between. If it doesn't sound good to you, it's not going to inspire you. And if it does sound good to you, it doesn't matter if it doesn't sound good to someone else because you're going to connect with your instrument that way. So pickup height, as long as the strings aren't hitting the pickup, as long as like the magnets in a Strat pickup, say, aren't interfering with the oscillation of the string,
the magnetic
there's no
blue.
right or wrong. Exactly. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all personal preference. And I think people need to be reminded of their own kind of agency with guitar a lot of the time. Like, yeah, it's your guitar. If you're trying to mimic a certain artist's setup or sound, there are ways to do that. But if you're trying to play guitar for your own enjoyment, for your own growth, for your own enrichment, it's all about what you do and don't like and what inspires you to pick your guitar up again. So yeah, mess with your stuff, adjust your pickups, lower them. You will find a surprising range of sounds on tap just from that. Beyond that, I think a lot of players who haven't worked on their own instruments as much They don't always have a deep grasp of how pots and caps will affect their sound. I think a lot of people place more stock in capacitor type and value as like an inherent change to your, starting point rather than kind of like, well, the idea is, the cap value determines kind of your cutoff point of where you roll down your tone control. It's just about how much of your highs you're dumping. The pot value, I think, is also something a lot of people don't always realize that like, there's convention, bright single coil pickups tend to get 250K and, darker pickups, P90s or humbuckers tend to get 500, but you can mess with all that stuff. It's your guitar. You can leave convention behind. And if you're like, I like a lot of things about these Firebird pickups and I hear they get 500Ks, but they're so bright. I want to take a little off. Try 250s, maybe try 330s, split the difference. Don't be afraid to experiment with things that are, especially like pots, pretty inexpensive and fairly easy to, learn the ropes if you haven't done much work on your own guitars. That's a great kind of like first project.
It really is. That's a
difference.
good one. That's a good one.
I mean, Jazzmasters are a perfect example too. I mean, a Jazzmaster pickup with 1 meg pots has that hi-fi brilliance and sounds like a lot of people kind of hear that guitar in their head, but a lot of contemporary reissues aren't using those pots because they can be too bright for some players. So people will buy these reissue JMs and be like, it doesn't sound like a vintage one, even though I replaced the pickup. Go ahead, put a 1 meg pot in there, see what happens. And oftentimes it's something small like that. The other things, I know this sounds silly too, but change your strings.
I was just going to say, change your strings. Even if you do all that other stuff, change your strings.
Yeah. I get it. It could be time consuming or a little annoying to do, but
or you can zen out in your basement and just enjoy yourself.
That's how I do it. But it's a huge difference. Even to this day, I've played guitar for 30 years at this point. I'm surprised every time by how much better my guitar sounds after I change the strings. And just that little chance to check up on things. You don't need to be a guitar tech or a professional to do the minor maintenance. And literally changing strings, run your finger under there. See if you feel those dents and divots in the wine separating. Like that makes a big difference in the oscillation. You lose a lot of your top end. You lose tuning stability. It's a little thing. Exactly. It goes a long way. So all of those kind of like no-brainer things, unfortunately, I think people forget a ton of the time. And then, I think by and large, just remembering that idea that like, you don't need to be afraid of your guitar, really within reason. Like you'd have to ignore a lot of common sense to really, really, really mess something up beyond repair. Yeah. Of course, there's an asterisk there. We all know someone who's done it.
Yes. But,
you
mean that time I painted a Rickenbacker with acrylic poster paint?
Yeah, that's the time.
Oh, yeah. We've got a pre-production Jazzmaster at the Lollar shop that was covered in blue house paint when it was discovered. So, it's been done. But, do you remember how scared you were of a truss rod the first time you heard about what it was?
Yes.
I'm going to break my guitar in half if I do this wrong, if I breathe on it the wrong way. Nah, they're meant to be serviced. They're meant to be adjusted. And I think the nice thing about the internet age is there's some pretty good content out there for learning the ropes if you're curious. You just kind of, maybe ask a friend like, hey, should I listen to what this person is saying if you don't know? Yeah, for sure. And I guess, touching on that once more, call us up at Lollar. I think one thing that a lot of people, we get calls all day long, but we're really, really fortunate as a company to have the personnel and the expertise to be able to pick up the phone. And you can talk to us for 20 minutes about whatever you want, and you will get our time, and you will get answers, and you will get information, and you don't even have to be a paying customer. We're really lucky that we can offer that, which I think of as sort of a community service and just sort of continuing the legacy that Jason built with kind of the, with the steel guitar page and his presence on the gear page, things like that. If you have questions about guitar stuff, we'll help you out.
That's cool.
Yeah. That is a great service because, I have questions from time to time, and if someone can give me a quick answer or maybe a lengthy answer, it helps me.
We can do both ways.
Which do you want?
Yeah. Well,
I think of it as, it's kind of the right thing to do, I think, in terms of, a kind of an ethical view or just the guitar community at large. But it's a business thing, too. If you're kind and you share your expertise and you're supportive of people, they're going to remember that when it's time to spend their hard-earned cash on, whatever it is they need for their guitar. And that was something I really learned when I was working at Dusty Strings. It was a very, it wasn't commission-based. It wasn't super pressure. Equip people to make decisions themselves, and they will feel good about the interaction they had with you, and they will remember that.
You can still have a mom-and-pop mentality, to coin a phrase, or a punk rock mentality, or however you want to say that is, no, you're welcome here, and we want to interact with you. We want that connection with you. Regardless.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, Mike, this has been an absolute joy hearing the inner workings of Lollar and all the great light that you've shed on pickups and all the good stuff here. Tony's got a little something here. We're going to transition our way towards the bright and shiny finish line for this episode.
I see it. I see the finish line.
Yes. What do we got, Tony?
Well, at this point,
Would you rather?
Before I was so rudely interrupted.
Oh, so sorry.
This is the section. This little game we play called Would You Rather. And this week's Would You Rather is brought to us by our frequent contributor club, Bruce Bacon.
Yeah, these are Northwesterners, too.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
And he names, I can't speak today, he names this one, That Nagging Backache.
Okay.
Okay, so here's how it goes. You are the proud owner of a Northern-era Gibson Les Paul Standard with Shawbuckers. That's a plus.
Okay.
And that's your number one guitar. It has served you well, but that 10 to 12 pounds, no amount of Doan's pills can stop your nagging backache while playing it.
Yep.
You realize that you need to sell it and get something lighter. So here's what you're thinking. Would you rather replace your coveted Les Paul Standard with a used great condition Gibson Memphis ES Les Paul, or a brand new weight relieved Les Paul Modern Light? Now let me give you a little information on both of these in case you don't know. So the Memphis ES Les Paul is a semi-hollow Les Paul shape that has the F hole.
Yeah.
And the Les Paul Modern Light is a little bit thinner. It's not hollow, but it is weight relieved. So they do some fancy routing on the inside there to get rid of some of that stupid heavy mahogany.
Is that a carved top?
I don't know. I guess it's got a little bit of it's like a special, I would say. It's got a little bit of a carve in it.
Kind of reminds me of the Les Paul Studios from like the early mid 2000s.
Yeah. So I guess what you have to decide is whether you want the semi-hollow with the F-hole or the Modern Light, and just, for spec-wise, they're not that dissimilar. Like the ES Les Paul weighs about average 6.5 pounds. The Modern Light is 6.5 to 7 pounds. There's weight relief, obviously, in the newer one. The other one doesn't need it because it's semi-hollow. The body wood and top wood and all that, they're very similar. One of the major differences is the finish on the semi-hollow one. It's nitro gloss, and on the newer one, it's a satin nitro.
Okay. By the way, do you mind us asking what your son's name is?
Max. Did you hear him there?
Does Max want to jump out and say hi?
Hey, Max, what are you doing, buddy? You want to come say hi?
I'm winding pickups, Dad. Leave me alone.
Yeah. You want to say hi to our listening audience? Max, can you tell me about the monster truck that you have here? Okay, what kind of monster truck is this?
T-Rex.
It's a T-Rex monster truck? Are those lightning bolts on the wheels? Yeah? Do you think this one goes super fast? Does it breathe fire? No, it doesn't breathe fire. Okay. Well, it sure looks angry. I would be scared if I saw this thing barreling down at me.
All right.
Super cool drawing. T-Rex monster truck. Max Wohl, everybody.
There you go.
Nice.
Tell Max the world out there says hello.
Max, everyone says hi.
All right, Tony, give us your pick, then we're going to check in with Mike.
Well, I am a fan of semi-hollow guitars.
Yes.
I am also a fan of gloss finishes.
Yes.
And so, to me, the obvious choice is the Memphis ES with the, with the F-hole.
Okay.
I have a thing for F-holes. What can I say?
I get it. Any particular color you're going with?
I'll go with the typical sunburst.
Okay.
That's what I'm doing.
And how about yourself, Mike?
I'm going to go with the ES Les Paul, the gold top version of that.
Ooh.
It's pretty killer. It's I like that it would rub people the wrong way in certain crowds. Like, well, that shouldn't be. That doesn't exist in nature. And yeah, I love a semi-hollow build. And I would slap a Firebird in the bridge. Absolutely. Step one. And I'm going to go gold foil neck there and really just make it chimey, bright, and cutting. Have, some kind of aggressive top end out of that bridge. It's a great, I love Neil Young's guitar tone.
Yeah.
Maybe my favorite guitar player ever. And Firebird bridge and a Les Paul, love it all day long. That'd be a guitar that'd be cool to, push a couple people's buttons with. And I think it looks great too.
There you go. I love a semi. My number one is a semi-hollow. And I love playing semi-hollow. However, I have a strange aversion, like a repulsion, not unlike to Stratocasters, for single F-hole guitars. It's just whatever my thing is. It doesn't. Hey, if you got one, I'm sure it's awesome, and it's just not. I don't know why. Thin line tellies? Nope.
Really?
What about a Rose Morris Rickenbacker?
I have one.
Yeah, he does have one.
That's the Reckless Eric guitar right there. I love that thing.
Yeah, that's right. I actually have his little mini single, or was it a mini LP?
You two can get in a paddle boat and go around the pond and look at swans. But I'm going with the Modern Light because it's pretty punk rock. I like that a lot, especially the Gold Mist Satin. I think that's right up my alley.
See, I have an issue with satin finishes.
I do too. So I'd take it over to Chase and I'd
let him spray it.
Hit this with some black nitro and let's get it over with.
Well, likewise, if I ended up with that guitar, we're lucky here in Tacoma to be just a stone's throw from the legendary Joe Reggio. So I'd come up with like a pretty fun, like a custom color finish on that one. Maybe like a Tahitian coral or something like that.
Ooh, okay.
I like that idea.
There you go.
Tiki bar.
Very nice. All right, Tony, that was a good one. Thank you, Bruce.
Thanks, Bruce.
You rule. Tony, we need to thank a few people, and then we need to let our friend Mike go.
Yeah, that is correct. At this point of the show, there's a special group of people we love to thank. These are our executive producers,
That's
of course. Correct. Now, executive producer helps make this show possible. How do you become one? Just head over to patreon.com/The Guitar Knobs. Check out a couple different levels in which you can participate and become a sponsor, a friend, a hero, if you will, of this podcast. Each level comes with some very nice thank you gifts and opportunities to win great stuff and just that general warm feeling you get in your heart and soul.
In your gutty wutts.
Yes. Ooh, that's I haven't heard that one yet.
Well, that's an old Clockwork reference.
Ah, there you go. But in addition to all that great stuff and that super warm feeling in your
gutty wutts.
Gutty wutts?
Yeah.
Gutty wutts. I'm going to mark that down. I'll use that next week. Gutty wutts. There's one thing more, I'm told. What would that be?
You get to have your name read on the thing.
Your name read on the thing. That's what I'm going to do right now. So special thanks to these executive producers: Anthony Lathrop, Brett Hogarth, Cameron Pampas, Darren Gregory, Don Kloss, Elad Mizrahi, James Bell, James White, John Esterly from Rare Buzzer Effects, John Sebastian, John Halverson, all the Johns in one place, Justin Jones, Ken Sayers, Michael Senchuk, Mike Davenport, Owen Eads, Pluton, Ralph Gottschalk from Wonderful Audio Technology. What? Richard Kendall, Rick Calhoun, Rusty Sneeden, Stefan Lamb, Tom Brazen, Trevor Ellenberg, Trevor Gunberg, Vader and Pedals, Caribou Gone, Ed Rossler, and Uday Ram.
Yes.
But wait, Todd, there's more.
Okay.
There's a special group of executive producers. We call them our Grand Poobahs. These are the A number ones atop of the heaps. What else do I put in there?
King of the Hill.
King of the Hill. All of them. Kings of the Hill.
Yes.
And they wear a fez upon their head whilst listening to this podcast. So special thanks to these Grand Poobahs: Anthony Gemalero, Billy Spitfire Unlimited, Bob Crouch, Brian Robison, Cody Foster, David Kaminga, David Tyndall, Enrico Fernando, Fox Hill Studio, Gregory Randall, Hex Matos, John Williams, Martin Cliff, Matt Hart, Poet Emeritus, Michael Van Zant, Michio Murakishi, Moon Guitars, Pedro Vasquez, Sam Jett, Steve Keys, James Pennington, Zach Oswald from Brandon Wound Pickups, Jonathan Labate from M2 Labs, Ty Barnes, James Castellano, and Kenny Howe.
That's right. Hey, I want to give a special shout out to Pluton. Had a great conversation with him this past weekend, and
Nice.
I just want to say thank you so much for your support. All right. We need to say thank you, a huge thank you to Mike for sharing so much with us. We just got to sit back and learn and listen, and it was great. Mike, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Todd. Thank you, Tony. It was really a pleasure. Really appreciate you having me on the show.
Great. Mike, if people want to find out more or purchase these great pickups and accessories and all the fun stuff, where can they go?
LollarGuitars.com. Drop us a line anytime. You can also reach us email at info at LollarGuitars.com.
Perfect.
And they can check you out doing your thing on YouTube, yeah?
Yeah, I'm all over the Lollar page, so you'll see me there. There's some of my other colleagues too, in case you get tired of me. So don't worry about that. And come and talk to us anytime. Trade shows, email, phones. We're happy to chat.
Excellent.
Nice.
Tony, how about you?
Head over to pickguardian.com. Check out the stuff that I do. What do? I make pick guards for guitars. How do you get one?
Yeah, for your new Memphis.
Yes. There, why not?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Shoot me an email. Let me know what you need, what you're trying to do, what material you want, what pickups you're putting in, hopefully Lollar Pickups, and I'll make something special for you. As Todd likes to say, it's your opportunity to make your guitar even more yours.
Correct. You can shoot me a DM on Instagram at Guitar Knobs. It's the best way to get a hold of us. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what you thought about this episode, past episodes. Share what gear you're digging. Make fun of Tony. I don't care. We just want to connect with you.
Don't make fun of me.
Thank you all so very much. We hope you stay positive. Stay positive. Treat each other well. Have a fantastic guitar week. Subscribe.
Yep. When you want to capture someone's attention, whisper.
Lollar Pickups, Lollar Pickups. Beep beep bop 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 beep beep bang bang. Beep beep bop 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 bang bang. Yeah, especially if you're trying to get your yucks in, So
Yeah, exactly. The jokes are a little stale.
yes, and we pride ourselves on our yucks.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it was an improvement.
Yeah. Well, I think anything I've ever put Lollars in they've been improvements. So
we'll add you to the payroll. Thanks for saying so.
Yeah, yeah. If you have any other boots he can lick, bring him on up.
Hey,
set him on the porch.
I speak the truth.
I imagine when you go to like an event or something.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, if you go in there and they say, "So what do you do?" and you're like, "I work at the supermarket." Oh, I see. Well, that must be nice. Anyway, Ellen.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Tony, you know what that is.
What? Wait now.
Anyways, we're probably looking about an hour and a little bit of change, depending on how the conversation goes, unless you hang up on us. And I hope that doesn't happen.
No.
Yeah. Okay.
And away we go.
Well, that's it for these knobs. Please visit our Patreon page at patreon.com/theguitarknobs. Visit our website at theguitarknobs.com for all of our past episodes, 4 on the Floor blog, and other good stuff. You can connect with us on social too at our Facebook page and share your gear and stories on our Facebook group. Also, be sure to check out our Instagram at Guitar Knobs. Catch you next time.